Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Real Estate Disruptors. Today we've got Chris Jefferson from Richmond, VA. He's going to talk about how he's flipped hundreds of homes, wholesales many more, and how to get your first deal and not oversimplify the process. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm Steve Trang, founder of the Offer Fast Homes app, the only MLS for off-market wholesale properties, and I help entrepreneurs create businesses that support their family, lifestyle, and goals through mentorship. I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. If you want to join me on that journey, drop me a message on Instagram at stevetrang. If you're excited for today's show, please give me a wave, give me a thumbs up. And as a friendly reminder, I don't charge a dime for this show. I don't make any money doing this. So here's all I ask. This is what it costs for you to listen to the show. If you get value today, please tell a friend. You can share this episode right now, tag your friend below, or tell everybody to stay away from the show later on. That way we can all grow together. And this is a live show, so please ask your questions for Chris to answer. Are you ready?
I'm ready, man.
All right. Thanks for coming out here, dude.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So, first question is, what got you into real estate?
What got me into real estate? So, I got arrested my senior year of high school. I was an athlete. I thought that...
arrested?
I got arrested, right? So, senior year of high school.
Okay. At
school, everybody's coming, the senior parking lot, everybody's coming out of school. So, I'm that guy, right? And, I thought that I was going to go play ball in college. I had dreams and aspirations of doing that. But thankfully, what ended up happening to me is I had a business teacher, okay? I got involved with DECA pretty early on in high school.
Awesome.
I did really well with it, had a lot of success. And she really inspired me and moved me to pursue business with my life, as I moved forward. So I graduated high school and really kind of just got locked in on business. I saw that real estate was really an opportunity. I was that kid when I was growing up that was reading Fortune magazine and Forbes. This is before the tech bubble, right? Before that blew up. And I would look at those lists and see that everybody was successful in real estate, man. So I just wanted an opportunity to do something dynamic with my life. And
so straight out of high school? Straight
out of high school.
And what year was that?
That was 2004.
2004?
Yeah.
Okay, so you hit the ground running.
Hit the ground running. I didn't make any money for a long time.
No?
But definitely hit the ground running, got into real estate. I just learned. So I started out being a bird dog. I called it trading addresses with people for a couple $100, usually around $250. I was leaving church one day and I saw a bandit sign. So I didn't know what that was at the time, but I see a We Buy Houses sign right on the telephone pole. And I see it and something just tells me to call the phone number. So pick up my phone, I call the phone number, guy picks up the phone, and I say, hey, I just want to learn how to invest in real estate. I'm willing to work completely for free if you're willing to teach me. So we start talking a little bit, and he finds out where I went to high school at. I tell him my name, and he's like, wait, you played ball with my son, right? So we start talking about it, and I'm like, yeah, no, I know him.
Yeah.
And so he says, hey, meet me at one of my properties tomorrow, and we'll talk, and I'll show you some stuff. So he introduced me to the concept of wholesaling, right? And I started to pursue that, kind of after I found that. Went through a lot of different things in that interim, went to college for a little bit. That didn't really work out, right? I just kept finding myself back at real estate.
Well, it's pretty cool, though, that you're educated or introduced to wholesaling at that time. Because not a lot of people, even today, people are still like, what is wholesaling?
What is wholesaling, right? Yeah.
It's been around for a very long time.
Absolutely.
Right? And so that's pretty cool. And I think the other thing, too, is that you were intentional, right? You had made the decision you were getting into real estate.
Right.
Because if you didn't make that decision you were going to get into real estate, that We Buy Houses sign is just one other thing that blurs out.
It's just a sign on the side of the road that you don't know what to do with, right?
But you had clarity of what you wanted to accomplish, and you went after it.
Absolutely. 110%.
All right, cool. So when did you pop your first deal?
So that's a great question, man. So my first wholesale deal did around 2006. So I had a guy that I was bird dogging a lot for, and I was trying to get into that wholesale space. So I give this guy this deal, and he says to me, I told him I wanted to make $5,000. Right. At that time, $5,000, and today $5,000 is a lot of money to me, right? So I tell him I want to make $5,000. He's like, sure. And I'm like, wow. This is really how this thing actually works, So I popped the cherry, man, in 06 and kind of went through that for a couple of years, and then Great Depression happens.
All right.
Things got a little bit different, right, when that happened.
So you were learning predominantly from a mentor at that time?
Yeah. So I had a mentor. I like calling him a mentor because it was more than real estate. It was really a business life mentor to me. He showed me kind of what a business person looks like, how to manage different people, how to work through and problem solve. Really being a business owner is just dealing with problems every day and figuring out how you can solve those problems. And, he really just gave me an opportunity to kind of understand that. And, we're still really good friends to this day. He's since retired and hung up his hat from investing in real estate, but he absolutely supports my business and has been a phenomenal help.
Well, I think it's really crucial, right? Because even right now, there's a lot of information. There's no shortage of knowledge out there, right?
Yeah.
We all put out, massive amounts of content. But it's still really hard to figure out exactly how to get started, where, which point and which specific steps. I know you're going to talk about it a little bit.
Sure.
But you cling down to somebody and you learn from them. And that's something that I've told people, like, if you got money, get a mentor. If you don't got money,
110%.
Work for somebody.
110%.
Right? Like, trying to do this on your own with no money, I can't even imagine.
It's difficult to do, right?
Yeah.
I encourage everybody to find somebody in your market that you can trade value with.
Yeah.
Right? Because, me being a leader now in my market, what is valuable to me is somebody that is intentional about trying to help me inside of my business, right? So when somebody comes and says, hey, like, Steve, can I just cold call for you?
Yeah.
You give me a list. I don't really know how to cold call, but if you're willing to show me, I'll show up every day and make phone calls.
Right.
That's what it was for me with this guy.
I wish I had that.
Yeah.
I wish I had people messaging me that.
I need more people like that, man.
Yeah.
So what I did with this guy is I just got really intentional about helping him fix problems.
Mm-hmm.
If he had a contractor on a job site that he needed to have a conversation with, I was willing to go out, talk to that contractor, try to figure out how we could fix that issue. Somebody hadn't paid rent. I'm going out to the property. I'm trying to talk to them about, hey, how can we fix this issue? And again, this is during the recession, right? So it wasn't like it is today. Hey, it's the 5th. We're going to send you a pay or quit, right? It's like, no, hey, look, we got to try to work out. We want to try to keep you in the property. Mm-hmm. So I did a lot of those things, and it was a value exchange. I never made $1, never asked him for anything in that capacity outside of wholesaling deals to him.
Awesome. So another detail.
Yeah.
Started in 04, but your first deal was in 06.
Exactly.
I hear a lot of people quitting after 4 months, like, this is fake. I think, you see it in all these different Facebook groups, like, this is, I was sold something or I was pitched something. But you took 2 years to get your first deal. Yeah,
and the funny part about that, right, is I want to make sure I give him credit. I give him a lot of respect for the help that he gave me inside of that deal.
Mm-hmm.
My first deal on my own took me all the way until 2010. Right. So once I got intentional about trying to build my own business without the need for him to directly help me in kind of every single capacity, it took me 2 years. So I'm on a long stretch. I graduated in 04. Right. So now we're talking 2008. I opened my first LLC. I'm just ready to go make things happen. It wasn't until 2010 that I started really getting my own personal traction in my own personal business,
So what were you doing in those 2 years with no money coming in?
So I was working at a $15 an hour job. I had a motorcycle, man, when I was out of high school. I bought a motorcycle, sold my motorcycle, I had an Infinity, sold the Infinity, moved back home with my mom. I'm living in my mom's house trying to kind of just figure life out. And, it helped me. It was my rock bottom, right? One thing that I talk to people about a lot is I got really comfortable and okay inside of my rock bottom. So when I would talk with people, run into old friends, and they'd say to me, hey, man, I heard that you're supposed to be doing real estate. What's going on? Like, for me, I was in a space where, like, I was okay being that guy that wasn't where he's supposed to be yet, because I internally knew I'm headed to a certain space. I know exactly where I'm trying to go.
Yeah.
These are the things that I'm trying to actively make happen.
I'm successful, just the results don't show it yet.
Exactly, right. Yeah. But mentally, internally, in my mind,
right,
like, I'm going for it. Like, I know that I'm going to make these things happen.
Yeah, so one of our a coach that I still work with, and he says, like, I'm a millionaire. My bank account might not show it.
Right.
But I'm a millionaire.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Right,
and you got to have that mentality. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that first deal.
Yeah, so my first wholesale deal was a very easy deal. I still remember the street, Marion Shore in Richmond, Virginia. I find this deal. I take it to him. And I sold the same deal to him, right? Mm-hmm. So I take the deal to him, and I had a tenant that was ready, Section 8, ready to rent that property, like legit just ready to go. And purchased the property. I got $5,000. I didn't even get paid on the HUD. I didn't even understand what that even was at the time. He wrote me a personal check.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my first taste of what that really looked like. And then I found bigger pockets. So what changed my life was I found bigger pockets. Mm-hmm. So when I found bigger pockets, I was always into, like, online web forums, things of that nature. When I found bigger pockets, man, it just did something for me.
Yeah.
It was a space that I could go to. I could see people asking questions, getting specific help, getting the information that they needed. So really, like, what Bigger Pockets really did for me is by the time I started encountering things in my own business, I felt like I kind of had already experienced it through other people's experiences
Right.
that I had read about on Bigger Pockets.
Gave you some confidence.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So your first deal closes,
Yeah.
and after that, it gets easy?
No, it doesn't, right? So we're in the recession. So I think it's important for people to understand. So when a market starts to drop in the capacity that it did, right, the opportunity to wholesale becomes pretty non-existent. So I was just in a weird space of, I felt like I'd found this thing that was going to change my life, that was going to be completely dynamic, and then, boom, it's gone, right? And so I'm stressed about that. I'm trying to figure out, how do I make this work? What are the things that I'm supposed to do? And that's how I found rehabbing, right? So then I got into rehabbing houses. So around 2010, I did my first rehab. Lost money on that.
Wait, you just did your first wholesale deal.
So I moved really quickly into doing rehabs.
Okay.
And one thing I want to say about that is a lot of people's idea is that they want to get to rehabbing as quickly as possible. And I was that person. It's a different market now than it was then. One of the most important things to understand right now is that people like me, right, we flip houses for active income. So you need to make active income today, so you want to go flip houses ASAP, right? You can create that with wholesaling.
Yeah.
With no debt, you don't have to worry about hard money lenders. You don't have to worry about contractors. You're not running the lows every single day. You can create that active income opportunity really right inside of wholesaling itself.
Right. Well, it's fascinating because I think a lot of people that end up in wholesaling, a lot of them started as flippers.
Right.
And like, wait a minute, what's this wholesaler doing? How much am I paying?
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. So, yeah, I mean, wholesaling is by far, to me, the best way to do real estate, period. Yeah. It's the foundation that you can create inside of your business, and it gives you the vertical to really move into literally every single other piece of the business.
Yeah.
And once you control a deal as a direct-to-seller marketer, you control whether that becomes a subject to, you control whether that becomes a rental, you control whether that's an owner finance, you control whether it's a rehab. You've got kind of full control of that deal. When you're a rehabber, and especially right now, you're rehabbing for active income, you're literally waiting for somebody to bring you a deal. So you're just kind of like sitting in the wings.
Yeah.
It's like, I hope Steve brings me a deal today.
Right.
You're calling every wholesaler in town. You're trying to be the first on their list. You got to take full control of your business. You've got to kind of control these things. Wholesaling is giving me the ability to be able to do that.
And wholesalers are controlling how much you can make as a flipper.
Yeah, especially right now, right? So like margin has become like a big topic of conversation. So you've got a lot of rehabbers. They're good with like 10, 15, 20,000 on a deal. Now they're planning to make 20, 25.
Right.
But once you really get to the bottom of that, closing costs, paying, attorney fees, things of that nature, realtor fees, that 20,000, 25,000, everything doesn't go right on a rehab.
Nope.
So now that number has changed to something completely different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think 18K I know is like pretty common in our market as a target.
Yeah.
It's like 7-8% of the property value, right? Like that's what
and
it's so skinny.
And so what are guys getting wholesaling?
What's that?
So what are guys making wholesaling? They're making good
guys
money.
are making 15 to 20.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the beautiful part about wholesaling that I realized was, wait, I'm looking at it as I'm only making $5,000 or $10,000 a pop. That's the wrong way to really look at that. The way to look at it is if I do 10 deals a month and make $10,000 a deal, now I've made $100,000 in a month, right? So to be able to do that in this market, rehabbing, so it's difficult.
It's hard to scale.
Hard to scale.
All right, so you did your first deal wholesale. It's like, all right, I'm going to flip.
Yeah.
And you lost money on that one.
Lost money. So I just didn't manage contractors right, man. I didn't know what I was doing exactly. I walked into that situation trying to figure it out, trying to do things the right way. There's no true like guidebook to real estate. Every deal is different. How you manage different situations is going to change as you develop your business. So I kind of goofed on the management of the contractor. And so I finished that deal. I lose the $15,000. I'm thinking about going back to college.
You lost 15 on the flip.
Lost 15 on the flip.
After paying the hard money lender.
This is my money that I saved up.
Okay, so it was your loss. It wasn't like you owed anybody.
Correct.
You
Absolutely.
lost $15,000.
Lost it myself, right? So I'm still with my mom, paying a whole bunch of money in child support at the time. This is before I got custody of my daughter, and I'm just kind of dealing inside of that process. So again, I'm back inside of my rock bottom, right? But it's okay because again, like I said, I've gotten comfortable in that, right?
Yeah.
And so I accepted that's where I was at. And I said, you know what? I'm going to give this another shot. Because I didn't want to be regular. I didn't want to be just a regular guy that worked a regular job making $15 an hour. I would never get, I remember those times as a kid looking at Forbes, looking at Fortune, being in the airport with my family on vacation and seeing people in suits with briefcases. Like, I wanted to know what that really felt like.
Right.
You know?
Well, and I kind of, the analogy I like to use, I've seen other people use it, is like the Matrix.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Like, once you know it's not for you, like, how do you go back into it?
You can't, man. And so I figured that out, and I said, you know what, I'm going to try it again. So I went back to the same hard money lender, right? I was paying a lot of money at the time for hard money. It's different than it is now. So go back to this lender. I buy another deal. I pop $55,000 on that deal. Rehab.
Nice.
It was good. So I take that 55 and I reinvest it back into my business. So a lot of people don't know this, and I do talk about it, but I didn't pay myself for 2 years. So I kept working the $15 an hour job. I kept living at home with my mom. I still didn't have a nice car. I got a car that my mom gave me. And everything that I made, I'm talking literally every penny, for 2 years I dumped it back into my business.
So how much did you dump into your business in those 2 years?
So when I quit my job in 2012. I had over $300,000 in the bank, and I owned a very good amount of property by that point.
That's awesome. And you were still working that $15 an hour job.
Man, I was still working at T-Mobile, still coming in punching the clock every day. And the funny thing with that, man, is that so I went on vacation to Miami, right? And it's the first time I remember going somewhere on vacation as an adult where I could actually afford to do something, right? Like, I remember I rented a jet ski. It was like $150 an hour. And, like, I could never do something like that before as an adult, you know?
Right.
And so I'm sitting on the beach, right? And I'm like, man, I got to go back to work on Monday, you know? So I show up to work on Monday. My supervisor kind of just, like, said something that triggered me a little bit, you know? I got frustrated with the guy, and I just walked out and never went back, you know? And then, because it hit me, I had a fear of leaving my job. Truthfully, I should have left a lot sooner.
Right.
But I had a fear of leaving my job. And a friend of mine, she said something to me that I never forget, and I recommend it to a lot of people. So something she said to me, she said, hey, you're working 40 hours a week, all right? And you make like $25,000 a year, okay? She said, are you saying with everything you're doing right now, flipping houses, you're doing these different things, that you can't leave your job and make $25,000 back with 40 hours of your time back a week?
Yeah.
And so, like, her just saying it that way, like, hey, if I give you 40 hours a week, you're saying in 12 months you can't make 25 grand?
Right.
And I'm like, well, I've already made 25 grand flipping a house.
Yeah, it's really obvious.
Yeah.
When someone else says it.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily
No.
see through it. I mean, there's lots of things, right? That, like, someone said to me, I was like, oh, damn it.
Nah, it's funny you say that, right? So like one thing for me, and I encourage people to understand this, and it's something I had to figure out myself. Sometimes we just need somebody to tell us things we already know.
Right.
It's that moment of clarity. Like, I know that I was working 40 hours a week and I was only making $25,000 a year. Like, I knew that. But I had this weird attachment or fear of leaving my job. Well, I've got a kid. I need insurance. What am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about that? And it was just that conversation that made me realize, man, I'm never going back to T-Mobile, man.
Yeah.
You know? So I left. I got heavily into flipping houses. Up to that point, we were already doing about 20, 30 flips a year. 2013, I started doing new construction. So we started building houses. Reason I started doing that is that the market had started to get more competitive, right? You know, it wasn't like before where you could just call your realtor and your realtor's got 5 houses for you to buy, right? So it got to a point where I needed to be able to create my own inventory. And then I found that infill lots was a way to be able to do that. So I wasn't competing with everybody to try to buy a house.
Yeah.
Right?
Gotcha. Okay, so you added development.
Correct.
You didn't pivot.
Correct. Right. So I continued to do rehabs, and then I started to do development, new construction. I like new construction. New construction is a lot easier than doing rehabs because you're just really kind of putting something together based on a preset plan. So we did that for a number of years, and then it got to the point in 2015 where we had so many projects. My business had gotten huge. I'm doing a ton of different projects. I'm making a whole bunch of money, right? And I start running into cash flow issues, right? And I remember because I called my accountant, all right? And Go ahead.
It's a hard thing for people to understand.
Sure.
You were making a lot of money.
I was making a couple $1 million a year. Right.
But you had no money.
Exactly. All right. So here's what happens. So people understand this. It's a really
strange concept.
It is, man. It was hard for me to understand at the time. This is the rat race of being a rehabber and being in the development world, right? So I'm making all this money, and I remember I'm talking to I didn't feel it though. Mm-hmm. And I talked to my accountant, and she's like, yeah, you did 1.7. Like, that's great. And I'm like, well, where's the 1.7 at? Mm-hmm. You know? And she's like, oh, well, look, you own 10 pieces of land over here. You've bought these 15 houses over here. Because I've been stacking up land. I've been stacking up inventory to build a pipeline of single-family development, right? Mm-hmm. So my mentality was at the time, all right, everything I make, I want to put it back on the street. That's the only way that I'm going to be able to make money, mm-hmm. right? And so I ignored the kind of liquidity inside of that. So it got to the point where my burn rate a month was over $200,000. It was crazy, right? It's nuts. So I had over 20 active projects. I've got project manager on staff, superintendent, and I'm waking up every day ready to go crazy, mm-hmm. right?
You're stressed.
Stressed, man. Highly stressed. Not looking forward to going to the office. And I'm frustrated because I feel that, hey, I've been in this a long time. Why is everything not falling exactly where I want it to fall? Mm-hmm. And I was measuring that based on the liquidity, right? And so we're sitting in the office. It's March. I've got enough money to run through August, you know. And I'm talking to my right-hand guy, my head of operations, and I'm talking to him, and I'm like, Mark, man, I'm like, what are we going to do, right? I'm like, I got enough money to make it to August, man. And he says, hey, he goes, why don't we just wholesale some of these? So here's the funny thing about all of this. I never stopped creating my own direct-to-seller marketing. Mm-hmm. The problem is that I only cherry-picked the deals that I wanted to buy.
Right.
So we'd have all these leads. I only bought in a couple specific neighborhoods. So if it was outside of that neighborhood, we would toss the lead. So like we would just literally throw money. Literally, it sounds so crazy. We would throw money out of the window. That's how like locked in I was with rehabbing and development, right? Mm-hmm. And so we started realizing like we're sitting on leads. We've got leads coming in weekly, and we're buying like 1 or 2 of these a month or 2 or 3 of these a month, but we've got maybe 10 leads coming in. Mm-hmm. So we reshifted our focus. I had a large amount of inventory, like I said at the time. So what I did is I started selling off inventory. And this is how I found wholesaling, mm-hmm. right? And I don't even think it was called wholesaling at that time.
It's like a recent term.
Yeah, we just called it liquidation, right? Yeah. And so you're like, all right, I need to liquidate some of these projects. Let me go ahead and get some of these going. And what I started finding was the market had rode up so high, I had bought some of these so early, I was making money I'm making money on lots. I remember I had 2 lots that I bought side by side. I paid $50,000 for each one, right? I ended up selling them for $95,000 a piece. It was the same dirt. And so once you start realizing like things like that, mm-hmm. your mindset shift occurs. And I'm like, oh, so I've gotten caught up in doing the best houses in the neighborhood, doing the HGTV before and after pictures.
Yeah.
What I've gotten away from is the rate of return is the goal of your business. Like ROI is what it's really actually about, right? So once I refocused on that, we started building this wholesale business. And to fast forward a little bit, I hired some consultants in 2017. Harvard-educated guy. He comes in first meeting. He looks at all my businesses. Goes through my financials, and we're looking at my tax returns. All right, and he goes, "Hey," he's like, "What does this business right here do?" And I'm like, "Look, I don't need any help with that. That's my wholesale business. That's kind of just something I'm doing on the side. Like, I need help with this development stuff, right?" And he says, "No." Or his wife says, "No." And she's like, "Is that the net profit?" Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, can we please talk about this? I need mm-hmm. help, right?
The problem child, not the good kid.
Exactly. Yeah. And she goes, wait, if you're making that kind of money wholesaling, why are you doing some of this stuff? And I'm like, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Right? So then that shifted that gear into going kind of all in as we are now in mm-hmm. that wholesaling business.
Yeah, and that's a question that comes up a lot. A guy in our office, you know, he was like, I want to start doing some more traditional business this year.
Right.
And I was like, what?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Like I was like as your broker, right? Like
right.
I love hearing this as your broker.
Right, more money, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But as your friend, like, what are you talking about? You told me you did $60K on each of those 2 flips you did.
Right.
Why
are you trying to do something different?
Yeah. Like double down on what's working.
And that's really what it comes down to. Is I realized and understood after that conversation that day, I'm really good at sales and marketing. Mm-hmm. Wholesaling is literally just a sales and marketing business. So I realized, let me dial all the way in. Let me go as firm as possible on just honing my skills at sales and marketing. And what that's been able to do has been transformative. I don't wake up stressed anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not running to Lowe's at 6 o'clock in the morning to pay for an order. I don't have a bunch of superintendents and project managers anymore on payroll.
Yeah.
Now we've built out a wholesale operation. I still do some fix and flip, but those are every budget I used to have fix and flip was over $125,000. Now I don't have one over $25,000.
Yeah.
So we're doing, for us,
You're really cherry picking.
we're really cherry picking very small rehabs to do.
Yeah.
I do enjoy the process of rehabs. Some deals just work out where you have to rehab them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those rehabs, they start out the intention starts out as a wholetail. And then we just get to a space where it's like, all right, well, to really maximize the value here, let's do some form of rehab to kind of pick the property
Right.
up. Yeah.
So I want to go back to this topic though, just a little bit more, because it's something that I've heard other people preach. Just staying in one lane, right?
Yeah.
And, we got Pace, who was a generous host driving you around.
Absolutely.
And he's talking about sub two.
Right.
Right. And right now there's this big thing about multifamily.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And so there's no shortage of things to get excited about.
Right.
So how do you stay focused?
That's the $1 million question, man.
Yeah.
So here's my personal opinion. Pace and I have been talking about this since I've been in Arizona, actually.
Yeah.
So everybody's got a different perspective. Here's mine. I believe in just building up one vertical extremely aggressively.
Mm-hmm.
So make a focus to get really good at wholesaling. Build an operation that can really work for itself, and you can outsource a lot of the work inside that wholesale business,
Mm-hmm.
and then start looking at other verticals to get into.
Right.
I think a lot of the issue is that I think as people naturally, we have this weird fear of time, right? And,
What do you mean?
All right, so for example, I remember being in my early 20s, I'm making a whole bunch of money, right? And I feel like I'm not making it fast enough, all right? And
a little impatient.
I'm impatient, all right? I'm making really good money. I'm a millionaire, all right? But my thought process is I need more because I see everybody else doing all these things. This guy's got a Lamborghini. This guy's doing this. This guy's developing this apartment complex. And my mind was I needed to be doing those exact same things. So what happened is I lost sight exactly where I was personally at,
Mm-hmm.
and I started focusing on what everybody else was doing, thinking that's where I needed to be.
Right.
And so what I realized, I was 25 at the time, and time is like a very interesting thing to me, all right? Because what I had to understand, and somebody told me this, all right, so if I'm 25, I've got, God willing, I've got a good 40 years of life left, at least, hopefully,
Minimal.
right? All right? So if I've been able to do all this in 25 years, right? I've only been in real estate 5. And I've got 40 to go, and I'm stressed and upset that I'm not where I want to be at.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I was comparing the places I wanted to be to everybody else. And this is with social media, these Facebook groups.
It's even harder.
It's tough, man. And so my encouragement to anybody watching this, my personal process is you got to find out what your ideal life is, all right? And I talk about this a lot, but your ideal life is important. So it's not, I can't look at you and say, what does Steve have that I want? You got a nice Tesla, right?
Thank you.
All right. So and I want a Tesla, right? But I'm not comparing you having a Tesla to me.
Right.
I just know what my ideal life is. So how do I want to take care of my family? All right. What type of car do I want to drive? Where do I want to be able to go on vacation? All right. What kind of school do I want to be able to put my kids in? That's your ideal life.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to get comfortable inside of that. Figure out what number it costs to create your ideal life,
Mm-hmm.
and then you build your business to support that.
Right.
Not support what Steve wants to do, or Pace wants to do, or Max wants to do.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, what works for me? What is my personal ideal life? And then let me chase and pursue that.
Yeah, I love it. You got to design your life.
Exactly.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, and that's something that I've mentioned a couple of times. I just want to reiterate this. A lot of people, they get into this business for time, freedom of time, freedom of money,
And you get away from that.
and then you forget.
Yep.
And you get in the chase. And once you're in the chase, man, you're comparing, you're competing.
It's hard to get out of that, man.
Right.
I was there, so I know.
And so we got to remember why we started. And once we go back to remember why we started, then we can design our business to support
Exactly.
that why we started.
Yeah, man. So figure out your ideal life. Everybody's number is different.
Mm-hmm.
So the number I need for the things that I want is going to be different than the number that you need for the things that you want.
Right.
You just got to get locked in and focused on your own personal number. And to me, that's real success.
Yeah.
Success isn't having the things that everybody else has. It's having the things that you set out to have in the first place.
Right.
This is a weird thing, right? So we all get into this business And this is like the progression of real estate to me. So we get into the business, we first hear about wholesaling usually, right? There's somebody listening to this is going through this right now. So you find out about wholesaling and you're like geeked up. Like you're going crazy. You're like, man, I'm gonna be a millionaire, I'm gonna do this, I'm driving a Lamborghini, all these crazy things, right? And you get super pumped up on that. And then you're like me, it takes you a long time to do your first deal. So then you start hitting the pavement and you start getting stressed. And you're starting to get frustrated because you're like, why haven't I done a deal yet? This isn't working, that's not working. Why are these things not transitioning into the income that I thought that I could create, right? And there's a lot of different things that impact that. To me, a lot of what that is we start to lose sight of staying focused, right? And I encourage people to understand that being a wholesaler is not a part-time business.
No.
All right? And so this is how it works, right? So you get pumped up, you're super excited, then things stop, they're not working. So you're spending some money on marketing every month or every couple of weeks or when it's convenient, when you got extra cash sitting around. And then you can't transition that into a deal. Well, it's because you're not being consistent, right? And so you can't do this kind of part-time thing with real estate, especially wholesaling. So I've done every piece of real estate investing. Wholesaling is the bottom of the totem pole, right? So like the guy who owns the office building, he might not even know what wholesaling is, like we talked about earlier, right? Now, the benefit is hustling is rewarded in wholesaling. If you have the ability to work consistently and extend effort daily, you will be rewarded in wholesaling. It's just about being consistent, but the concept is super simple. So the concept is really just finding somebody who wants to sell a piece of property, right? Contracting that and selling your equitable interest in the contract to somebody else on an assignment.
Really simple.
Very basic, right?
Not as easy as it sounds.
It's not. So I agree with that 110%. It's not as easy as it sounds. But I know in hindsight, if I had been consistent and worked daily in this business and talked to sellers daily in this business, I would have done a deal way sooner than 2 years.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's something that Brent is always, just hammering on, right? Meaningful conversations.
Absolutely,
How many meaningful conversations did you have with
You have to have conversations with sellers daily. It's easy because we have these personal hang-ups that are preventing us from getting things done. And so it's like, I know I got to go to the gym, all right? I know I need to work out, lose some weight, right? And so for me, what starts to happen is then I make an excuse to not go to the gym. It's like, I'll just go tomorrow. Or you start the diet, you get a weekend.
I'll start on Monday.
Exactly. You're like, I'll just start on Monday. We do the same thing with wholesaling, right? It's the same concept because it makes us have to actually work ourselves to actually get it done. It takes like personal effort to actually do the business.
Right.
Yeah.
So wholesaling, that's your bread and butter today.
Absolutely.
Are you developing too still?
So we just finished an apartment complex development a couple months ago. I'm looking for some more opportunities right now. My mindset on that has changed quite a bit. I'm only really kind of looking for long-term stuff that I can put some money in and be involved in. I like the process of wholesaling. I look at life in two buckets. So I look at an active income bucket and I look at a passive income bucket. I want to support my passive income bucket with more development opportunities. Really interested in mixed use. The market is really at a point right now where finding these opportunities in Richmond. So we're in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, right? So it's a little different here. You guys got 5-6 million people here. Richmond's a smaller city, not very development friendly, right?
I can see that.
But I'm trying to help the city work on that. So we need to get a little bit more development friendly. So those opportunities aren't as abundant as I feel they should be. So now we're stretching out. So like we've moved our wholesale business. We're still primarily in Richmond. Now we're in Norfolk, Newport News, Portsmouth, and we're looking to find development opportunities as they come up in our marketing. So it's not something I'm actively chasing anymore like I used to be. But if it comes up in the pipeline, then we're absolutely going to do it and take it down.
For a passive income bucket, you're saying you're going to develop it and keep it.
Absolutely correct.
You're not selling it.
No.
There's no exit.
The benefit is, so like the BRRRR strategy. Like you can apply that to an apartment complex.
You
right?
definitely
Now
can.
you're talking about a pretty nice take home on that cash out refi, right? When you do that. So that's my thought process on that. That'll help build some more active cash flow. But really the wholesale business right now for me is designed to be able to do that. And I'm looking for those passive opportunities. I see that coming whenever the market cycles. We've been talking that the market's going to drop for like 4 years, it feels like. I don't think anybody knows when that's coming anymore.
Now we're expecting it to continue appreciating.
Everything looks super solid right now, right? I know in Richmond, We're down to like 2.1 months of inventory right now, which is crazy, right?
We're at 45 days here.
That's nuts.
That's crazy. Yeah. So one thing we were talking about is people tend to overcomplicate this wholesale business.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So I think we overcomplicate it by not being consistent, right? And what I want to help see more people do, and I've kind of been on a mission this year to really see this, is to take some of the complexities out of actually being successful in this business. So here's the thing. Somebody asked me earlier today, hey, if I dropped you in Reno, Nevada, Brent Daniels asked me this. He said, hey, if I dropped you in Reno, Nevada with $500, what would you do? And I'm like, very simple, right? I'd go buy a list, I'd skip trace that list, and I'd pick up my phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Right.
And so that's how simple this business is. What happens is there's probably 20 people watching this right now that don't like the cold call.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll tell you like, man, I hate cold calling. I don't want to talk to anybody on the phone, things of that nature. We don't like cold calling because it's the path of resistance. Mm-hmm. A lot of human nature is to always take the least path of resistance. So for me, to simplify things, it's like, hey, if I just got to get on the phone with somebody and build some rapport, create an appointment opportunity, if that's how I'm running my business, get out in front of them and put something under contract, like that's simple to do, right? The hard part, you said earlier that wholesaling is hard, and we agree on that, all right? What's hard about it is the effort and work that it takes to get that one seller to pick up the phone and say, hey, yeah, you can come take a look at my house, right?
So I've had people say they don't like the cold call, and my responses have been one of two things.
I'm curious to hear your response.
Too bad. Or Earl Nightingale had this thing called The Strangest Secret. Mm-hmm. And have you heard it?
No, I haven't. Tell me, please.
It's great. It's like classics, like 1940 or 1930s.
Yeah.
And it says, like, you know, we did some research, and what we found were the guys that were wealthiest were the guys that didn't want to do the same things you didn't want to do.
Yeah.
But they did it.
You got to face the resistance, man. You got to walk through it. This is my advice to everybody listening when it comes to cold calling. My first job out of high school was in a call center doing bill collecting. Mm-hmm. Like that is like the truest form of cold calling. If I saw that
on your resume, you're hired.
Oh man, no
bill
question
collector,
about it.
Debt collector, hired. We don't even need to have an interview.
Now that's a business that'll beat you up for real.
Yeah.
So I cut my teeth doing that, and that's on the phone all day, just calling people, trying to get them to pay something. You know
Mr.
what I mean?
Chris, what do you have in your bank account? Something.
No question. Please give me I got a quota. Please make a payment. And so, you know, I learned how to cold call through that, and then working at T-Mobile. All right. Here's the thing, though. When you're cold calling people that are going through stuff. So we're already pulling motivated lists in the first place. So we're pulling lists of tax delinquent. We're pulling code violation lists. We're pulling lists of people in probate.
Yeah.
So somebody just passed away, and we're actively calling them trying to buy their house. So we can't be amiss and think when Steve answers the phone and somebody in his family just passed away, right? That he might tell me to get the F off the phone, right? Or he might not want to talk to me today.
Yeah.
The power is in once you realize that and you start bridging the gap in those conversations to start focusing on the communication and helping that person, right? So instead of being in that scenario and just actively thinking about doing a deal, it's like, how can you be of service to that person and help them kind of solve an issue, right? But I think that's where we get into the space of really kind of overcomplicating the business. It's just not focusing on those type of things, you know?
So do you coach?
Absolutely. So
I'm your coaching student. Like, Chris, I don't want to call.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm going to ride you hard, man.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to get you on the phone. I'm going to sit with you while you're on the phone. All right. And I believe in watching film. So I told you I grew up playing sports. Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm a student of the business. I'm a student of the game. Right. And so what I like to do is get you on some calls, get you to understand that it's okay to not do well on the call. Mm-hmm. All right. That's like, there's nothing wrong with not doing well on the call. I'd argue that it's almost better to do well on the call initially, because then we can truly figure out what you need actual help with, right? So we're just going to go through film every day, right? It's just like the QB, all right? So every day, I'm your coach. Every day, man, we're just going through film. We're not focusing on getting the deal. That's not important. What is important, because remember, we got time, right? I'm only 25.
Yeah.
I wish I was still 25. I'm 33 now. Yeah. But we have nothing but time.
Wish I was 33.
Exactly. So we're just focusing on honing the skills getting better. Like, we're going to get on the field eventually and throw touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like, we know that's going to happen. But right now, we're just daily going to go through the film for the next couple of weeks. You're going to make 200-300 calls an hour, right? And we're just going to go through every live contact every single day. And then we're going to talk about, I'm going to coach you up. Like, let me be Belichick. You can be Brady, right? Let me get you coached up. And once we get there, man, I'm going to put, Bledsoe's going to get hurt, right? You're gonna go in the game. Now you're Hall of Famer,
right?
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But I think we're just constantly in this rush. You know, we find out the business, we get excited, and we just want to do a deal right now.
So let me ask you this, right?
Yeah.
So I'm your student,
sure,
okay? And I'm supposed to be doing 200, 300 dials an hour.
You're asking me something I'm probably dealing with right now. Go ahead.
But we have our call or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, so like I made like 30 calls last week.
So you're not serious about the business.
That's
right?
the conversation.
Yeah, and I'm not in a space where I want to keep your money, right, as a student or as your coach, right? Because if you're not willing to put the work in to make the phone calls, then the reality is you got to accept you're not serious about what you say you want to do.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean about treating this business as a part-time business. Like, you can't wholesale part-time. You've got to do wholesaling on a daily basis and a consistent basis. So if you're my student and you only made 30 calls last week, you don't want to wholesale. This isn't what you want to do, right?
Yeah, your actions don't line up with your words.
No, you want to be a bill collector.
Yeah.
Right? You want to work somewhere and you want
someone to collect your bills.
Exactly. You know. So my encouragement to you would be to try to coach you up, try to have a conversation to get you to a space where you understood that you need to make more calls.
Yeah.
Right? But if I can't get you there, as a coach, it's my responsibility to be honest with you at the same time and say, hey, Steve, look, man, you're just not ready to do this yet. And there's maybe something mental that you've got to overcome to get to the space that you are ready.
See, I was trying to be Tom Coughlin earlier on pace, but I don't think that worked. Yeah.
He got us here.
All right. So Charlie Prito says your only competition is yourself.
100%.
Diana says, her biggest problem is being consistent. So let's talk about that. Consistency. How do you overcome that?
And again, man, there's so many people that have been trying to do this, and I respect the people that have been trying to do this for a long time, because I remember personally what that feels like. I remember waking up sometimes, man, crying because I wanted to do a deal so bad, all right? But my actions didn't match my words, all right? So I felt it. Like, I felt that I wanted to not live at my mom's house anymore. I felt that I wanted to be able to take care of my family and do these different things, but I wasn't walking in that every single day, all right? So the consistency became the issue. So what I had to do is I started time blocking, all right? So I started managing my time out in a way where I used to work 3 to midnight when I worked at T-Mobile, okay? So I knew I had to get up as early as I could. So it would take me like 15, 20 minutes to get home. I'm trying to get in the bed by 1 o'clock every night, or every morning, all right? And I want to get up as early as possible so I can start working actively on real estate. And so this is when things changed. Like, I started making that self-commitment. And I think a lot of this comes down to, when you ask me about consistency, is being willing to make the self-commitment, right? Yeah. So it's like, I used to love playing video games, right? I still do. I don't get to play them as much as I want, right?
That's why it's the give-up list.
I like that.
What do you be successful?
I like that. I'd be willing to give some stuff up. So, watching your favorite team, watching the game every week or every Sunday. Like, that's all time. Like, a football game's 4 hours. That's 4 hours on a Sunday.
That's only during one slot. There's 3 of them on Sundays.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. So think about how much time you're giving up. You're giving your whole Sunday up.
Yeah. Right?
So if you're not where you want to be, you got to have that give up list. I really like that a lot. You have to create something like that in your life. That's what separates the people who go far in this business from the people that sit around for a couple of years like I did originally and don't get where they want to go, because you're just not willing to sacrifice some stuff.
Right.
The other part of that too, and I had this conversation with somebody recently, is you got to get comfortable inside of your rock bottom. I said at the beginning of this conversation that one thing that I did is I got comfortable in my rock bottom. I got comfortable with the embarrassment of not being exactly where I wanted to be yet.
Yeah.
Right. So I got comfortable with telling my family that I'm doing real estate investing, and I bump into somebody in my family like, "Hey, how's the real estate investing going? You done a deal yet?" Nah. I got comfortable with people not supporting anymore the things that I said that I wanted to do with real estate investing. I remember at first like that being something hard for me to deal with because I was so excited about it. I was so pumped up about it. And then people tell me, hey, that's not going to work. Hey, you're not going to be successful when you do that. So once you get comfortable inside of that, then like nobody can weaponize you anymore. Mm-hmm. So when you take that power away from people's words, right? Not where I want to be at right now.
Yeah.
33, if I'm not where I want to be at right now, like I can take action and get consistent every day there.
One thing I want to add here, right?
Yeah.
You were saying when you first started, you had your enthusiasm.
Right. Yeah.
But one thing I want to, really push upon everyone. I don't have 5,000 Facebook friends, right? Your profile, posting. I don't know why I'm going to accept your friend request.
Exact same way. I've got like 1,500 friend requests, but
my first filter is.
You like how you said that. It's easy to lose that. It's fair to say. I think you're working on a limited budget.
Yeah.
And so I like that. You lose that enthusiasm of wanting to do this business. Now, I mean, a spot that you got to be willing to push. Like, somebody listening to this right now, like $5,000 can change the trajectory of what their year looks like.
It's like what Max says, right? You're one deal away.
You're only one deal away. And I love that saying so much because that's really truly what it is. Like, you're one deal away from anything that you want. But you have to go through that barrier of entry and that resistance to kind of really get there.
Got to pay the price.
Got to.
So Carlos Sanchez wants to know, you were in the industry in 2008. You stayed during recession. Wholesaling disappeared.
Yeah.
How are you preparing for when the market changes?
I love that question, man. So that's why I do a lot of wholesale deals right now. I really love wholesale deals. That allows me to kind of continue to build my private lender relationships. Mm-hmm. I built my business largely on private capital. I believe in private capital 110%. I'm doing things like getting with people like Pace. Tony Sr. is an incredible resource for me. Getting with people like Tony Sr., learning about creative strategies. I think that creative investing is what will carry people through any downturn in the cycle. Yeah. Everybody that I know that is what we would call sometimes like killing it, right? Where they've got like the house, the car, the passive income. Those people got really good at creative financing, right? And when the market was down, they started doing substitution of collateral. They started doing subject to owner finance. I know one of my lenders, I've had conversations with him where he was taking over properties 0% financing, right? Like people were begging him to take over projects.
The market dictates what the market dictates.
Yeah, so like you've got to be willing to ride the wave of the market. And again, to answer his question, stay committed to being direct to seller, right? Like carry that through your entire investing career. Always market, always be direct to seller. But start now. Anybody listening to this, you got to start now learning about creative financing, learning how to structure deals, learning how to raise capital. These are all things that are going to take you time to learn, right? Yeah. Time to figure out how to exactly execute that. Raising money is not hard. I used to think raising money was like the hardest thing in the entire world. And I got like way too dependent on hard money. And the thought of raising private money to me was like, no, I can't do that, right? Well, the reality is the hard money lender just takes my before and after pictures, all right? He shows them to his buddies, and he says, hey, I know this guy, Chris. He does these crazy, beautiful houses. Why don't you guys give me some money? I'll loan it to Chris, and then we'll all just make some money. Yeah. I don't want that. I want to talk to the guy. I want to talk to the buddies. I don't want to talk to the hard money lender anymore.
So I love the way you put it.
So you got to start building some private lender relationships. Yeah. Now, when I say that, when I talk to people that I teach and things of that nature, their mindset is friends and family, right? I don't raise money from friends and family, all right? My mindset is I'm going to IRA events. Most of the money I raise right now to this day, millions of dollars a year, comes from IRA events, right? I'm going to family office events. I'm going to these different places.
Family office events?
Yeah, so family office is, consider a family that has wealth, right? There's family, they can build what's called a family office. And that family office goes and invests that money for that family, right? So there's events that are held around the country for people who have family offices, all right? So you go to these events. Here's the beautiful thing about raising money that I figured out. I've got something they don't have. I got deal flow, all right? So I don't have the money they have, right? So if I'm at an IRA event, a self-directed IRA event, then I know walking in the door that everybody in here is managing their own money and they're trying to figure out how to make more money themselves. Right? So they've got the money, they have no deal flow. Right? So now I'm that conduit. So now I'm having that conversation and I'm just leading it with deal flow.
Yeah, I love it. This is something that Don Costa spoke about before, is that, you know, like we get intimidated because these guys have all this money.
Exactly.
But they don't have the deals.
They don't have deals. And so what they want and what they crave is the deal flow.
Yeah.
So if you can bring that deal flow in, you can really get a lot of things done.
All right, LaShawn Campbell just jumped on, so I think we're supposed to sing happy birthday or something.
Ah, happy birthday, LaShawn, man. Shout out to her. Absolutely.
So Warren Adcock wants to know, what are the best 3 ways you're finding deals?
So best 3 ways that I'm finding deals, SMS, cold calling, and RVMs, 110%. So, you know, we call those the triple threat. Those are the 3 things that we focus on daily in our business, is to make sure that we're cold calling, to make sure we're sending text, make sure we're sending RVM. I also want to say too, man, that cold calling has to be the foundation of your business.
Yeah.
Brent and I just had a good conversation about this. I know he loves cold
Shocker.
calling. Right, I know. He loves cold calling, but it's so true. A month ago, I had a list. It was 7,600 people on the list of records that I bought, okay? So we go skip it. We've got all this data. I've spent the money for all this data. I go load it into our text platform. That 7,600 turns into like 700 phone numbers that were mobile that we could actually text. So what happens is, again, we talk about path of resistance. People don't want to cold call because they don't want to deal with that cold interaction. Texting is a softer interaction, and so they just go to try to text.
It's less painful.
It's less painful. But you got to look at how you're cutting your list down, right? So we lead off, like we start off with cold calling in our business. We want to start there, then we transition into texting and RVM. But those are my 3 biggest lead sources right now by far. SMS is my biggest lead source, but I want to caution when I say that, just to be clear. I don't want to say that and then people just try to go focus on doing SMS. So that's why I'm saying you want to build that cold calling business first.
Yep.
Because if you're working with smaller amounts of money when you're first starting out, right? I started out with no money. So when you're first starting out, you want to cast as wide a net as possible. So you don't want to just try to do SMS. And so I think what happens is people, they start to stretch that budget. So their budget might be $200, $300 a month, $500 a month. So they start trying to stretch that over multiple months, right?
Yeah.
And then they're frustrated because they haven't done a deal. Where if you bought a list of 1,000, right, and only 150 of those were numbers you could actually text, now you're truthfully only talking to 150 people a month.
Yeah.
When you could be talking to 1,000, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think it's important for people to understand to not try to go directly just into texting from the gate.
Yeah.
I think you really just want to try to start cold calling first, and the benefit of doing that is that impacts how you do your business with everybody going forward. Once you can have a cold interaction with a seller, now you can have a cold interaction with a private lender. Now you can have a cold interaction with a contractor. Now you can actually go have a cold interaction when you go to a seller's property and meet with them. Like, it gives you that basis of confidence.
Yeah, you got
to
your
have
reps.
these conversations. Exactly, you get your reps.
All right, so there was another question here. Max Maxwell's jumped on. What's up, Max?
Max, what's going on? That's my guy. Shout out to Max, man. He's an amazing dude. He's been such a resource, man. So shout out to him.
Incredible what he's done. Angie wants to know, Angie Kingston wants to know, does direct mail still work in your market?
So direct mail still works everywhere. I do not do any direct mail anymore. However, you can definitely direct mail. You can definitely make money doing direct mail everywhere. It's a costly form of marketing. I don't think you should just try to do direct mail to 500 people a month.
Yeah.
Right? You got to be willing to put some money behind your direct mail marketing campaign. So if you can send out a couple thousand pieces a month, now I think you can get some traction. So to answer her question, absolutely you can direct mail, make money. I know people in my market, biggest player in my market, he does direct mail.
Yeah.
Like, all he does is direct mail. So yes, you can make plenty of money doing direct mail. I just don't want to spend 40 cents a postcard.
I think you just got to grow there, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something you bump, like you grow into that vertical in your marketing flow.
Yeah, eventually you get to TV and radio and all that other stuff, but you start.
Yeah, you got to start small. Cold call.
Start cold call.
Start with cold calling.
So I got to ask a question.
Go.
What's alphas only?
No, that's a good question. So I first met Max. When did I meet Max? I met Max in August, I think. And we started having a bunch of conversations, hanging out, really not even like business-wise at first. It was really just talking and familiar minds or similar minds, right? And I think a couple of months ago, I'm in Winston-Salem, I'm hanging out with him, and he's like, man, I just like hanging around alphas, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, me too, right? And he's like, that's why I like hanging out with guys like you, Nazar, like you guys are alpha. You're not here trying to get something from me. You're not looking for anything from me. Like you're comfortable standing in your own space.
Right.
So I guess he came up with this phrase, alphas only, right?
Yeah.
And that what it says is, and this isn't just men, this is men and women, right? But like it takes an alpha to do this business. Like it takes that level of confidence to be successful in this business.
Right.
Like you can't do business on emotions, you know.
No.
You're not going to get very far doing that.
Nope.
You know, sometimes we're in that space where, because we're dealing with our own personal things of that nature. But you got to look at business, kind of remove the emotional aspect of it.
And I think just add like a little nuance. You can definitely be vulnerable.
Absolutely.
Right. You can be vulnerable, but don't get carried away with it.
Absolutely.
Kip Stevens wants to know what's the legality of SMS, and if you don't want to answer that question, we can always send him to an attorney.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. So, what's the legality of SMS? Look, you gotta send SMS at your own leisure. I'd recommend talking to an attorney for sure. That form of marketing, I think, is going to see some changes within the next 12 months. We'll all kind of see what that looks like. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a shelf life there personally. We're getting creative right now in my business, not getting stuck on doing SMS. We've been doing SMS for a little over a year now. And so, again, this business is a business of phases. I started out door knocking with a suit, right? I used to throw a suit on and go knock on people's doors. Back when I used to dress up, I would wear a suit and go knock on people's doors. And I thought, well, I'm looking professional and doing all these different things. But I had some success with door knocking, right? And I think we'll get back to door knocking here pretty soon. I think door knocking is working for some people really right now.
Oh, it's working great. Things that people know what's talking about. Yeah. Like direct mail, we're kind of talking about a little bit. Alicia says she's having luck with direct mail, but like people are quietly doing well with direct mail. They're just not telling people about it. Yeah,
it's a hidden secret. Funny enough, right? I think we're going to end up back where this thing all started in the first place, which is really kind of direct mail.
Right.
I think we'll get back to a space where direct mail is the highest form of marketing for most people.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's people I know personally that are killing it with direct mail, and they're not doing any text. They're not doing cold calling. My point though with cold calling and text and RVM is for people that are on a smaller budget, which is how I was when I first got it started. There's a lot of people listening to this who don't have a big monthly budget. $500 a month can get you really kind of moving with traction on low cost forms of marketing, like SMS, like cold calling. You can get a power dialer $180 a month. We use Call Tools. I believe that we're paying for one user, I think it's $100 a month.
Yeah, it's really cheap.
You can get a lot of velocity with something like that.
So Ray Lewis has a question. If you could just expand on we're talking about you got the list for, when you're getting started, you got the list and you're calling them on your phone. Yeah. That's really it.
Yeah.
What's a few additional steps, for Ray to get his first deal?
Yeah. All right. So you got a list. All right. You've skip traced that list, right? So you got to skip it. Let me help some people that are listening to this. So a lot of people, I feel like they get data, right? Or they don't understand data. Let me say that differently. I don't think a lot of people understand truly data. So data is literally the backbone of doing a deal, all right? And what I mean when I say that is where you buy your data is extremely important, all right? And how you skip your data is extremely important. And what I mean is I see people who they have not, they're like, get a list and they're like on True People Search or fastpeoplesearch.com and some of these other websites.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, I haven't been able to do a deal, right? So please, please, please focus on spending money on good data. If I've only got a couple $100 a month, if I'm spending it anywhere, I'm spending it on my list and I'm spending it on skip tracing, all right? Because you want to get quality, up-to-date information to be able to contact somebody. So you skip trace your list, you start making calls, you get somebody that comes on the phone and says, I'm open to an offer, right? So now you're at a point to answer this question where you're like, oh, all right, well, how do I make this offer, all right? So I subscribe to a different level of thought probably than anybody else that might have come up here already. And I like simple business. I like doing things simple. I'm from the country, right? So we like doing things a little easy in the South, all right? And so what that really looks like is we base our offers based on as-is comps. Literally that simple. All right, so we don't look at 70% loan to value and ARV and repair costs. We don't get carried away with that. I think a lot of people get confused when they're first starting with these terminologies and how to do those different things. The beautiful part about where we're at in the market cycle is there's an abundance of data available, okay? So we use a website called totalviewrealestate.com. It's a free website, so anybody can check this website out. We get a property, we have a seller on the phone. So I've got my list, I've skipped it, now I'm on the phone. Somebody finally answers, right? And they say they're willing to take an offer. What's your offer? So we'll plug that address in totalviewrealestate.com, all right? And we're going to look at the comparable sales data that populates in that box. And so use an example, if I'm trying to purchase a property and I'm looking at as-is comps, so if I see that comps are showing at 150, 140, something of that nature, then it's safe to say the comps that I see listed for 40, 50, 60, 70,000, those are likely as-is comps, okay? So I want to communicate with that seller. I want to know, hey, what's the condition of the property? Have you made any updates to the property in the last 5 years? I'm looking to pull some information out of them so that I know how to compare that property out. So if I see that property is 800 square feet, if I see that it's a 2-1, right, then I'm looking at comps and I'm looking for other 2-1s on that list. And so when we're making those offers by phone, what we're looking for is, all right, so I see 4 2-1s that went in a range from $50,000 to $65,000. That's enough data for me to know this property is likely worth $50,000 to $65,000, right? So now we're going to back off of that $50,000 to start to create our offer, okay? So we're going to start our offer at probably $35,000. So we're going to make that, because the biggest thing is when you finally get somebody on the phone when you're cold calling, and you ask them if they're interested in an offer, and they say, well, Steve, what's your offer? You got to have an answer for that, right? And so this helps us quickly kind of come up with that initial offer range. So we're going to get that $35,000. We know that there's a market set for $50,000 to $65,000. So we're going to go ahead and make that initial $35,000 offer. We know they're likely not going to take that. If they do, we call that a home run, right? Likely though they're not going to take that initial offer. Now I can leverage that to kind of figure out what their asking price might be, okay? So that'll help me maybe get that information. But I know that I've got a window, again, of $50,000 to $65,000 I can sell it for. So let's say I get them at $45,000. I know based on cash comps in the market right now, within a quarter-mile or half-mile radius, I know I can move this property for at least $50,000. Right? And so I'm going to get it under contract, a lot of times without even seeing it. All right, I'm going to get the property under contract. I've got an inspection clause in my contract that's going to give me some protection when I go to take a look at that property physically, okay? But that's how we're coming up with our offers, man. So that's the next step that you would need to do, is come up with how you want to make that offer. But simplify that process, right?
Yep. Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
Let's see what else there was. I think a lot of people here, they're really, really appreciating, they can relate, to your earlier part of the journey. So I think that's pretty cool.
Man, I've been through that. Yeah. I know what that struggle feels like, man. It's funny, man. So a couple years ago, I felt like I got away from that a little bit. I had achieved a bunch of success. I was doing a lot of different things. And I do believe that God gives you humbling moments, man. And one thing that I had to do in my own business is I had to go back and touch the sellers again. I had gotten so far removed from the process of being on the phone and making offers and going on an appointment and doing these different things, talking to cash buyers. That's what I liked about seeing Pace today and yesterday was, that guy's active. Like he's out here like talking to sellers all the time.
Yeah, his thumb is on the pulse.
He's not playing around, man. I had to do that in my own business. I had to get comfortable actively making my own cold calls, right? Because we had a bunch of VAs making cold calls, things of these nature. I had to go back and kind of retouch those things. But my encouragement, man, is embrace that struggle you're in right now in your business. This business is purely mindset. Again, we already said the concept's really simple, right? The mindset piece, like the thing we have to overcome internally, is a difficult part, man. But anybody that's in that space right now, keep pushing, keep being consistent, keep focusing on talking to a seller or multiple sellers really on a daily basis. You have to talk to people, talk to sellers daily.
That's powerful. Ms. Smith wants to know you're ever going to be building again.
I get that question all the time. I'm sure I will be building again. I hope I don't build a house this year. But I'm sure I'll be building again. I'm looking for different opportunities down the line. I'm a person who rides the market cycle. When the market drops, I'm going to be buying up a whole bunch of land. I'm sure I'll be building again at some point. It's not something that I'm adverse from wanting to do. My model of how I would build houses has changed. I got my Class A license at one point. We subbed out all our own work. I've had employees on payroll that were contractors. How I would do that now is I would partner with a GC. And this is what we do now in most of our projects. I'd partner with a GC. I'd work out a cost plus relationship. And so anybody who doesn't know what that means, cost plus means whatever the project cost is. So if that project cost is $100,000, you're paying that general contractor 15% of the cost of doing the project.
Yeah.
I have found that's probably the best model to use. It keeps you and the bill or the GC honest. You can build in a savings buffer inside of that as well, where the builder gets a kicker if they save you some money. I've already, I know that process. I know how to put a house together. I know how that works. But what I also do know is extremely time consuming.
Yeah.
All right, when you try to do those things yourself. So would I build a house again? Absolutely. Would I do it myself and GC the project myself? Yeah. Absolutely not.
Right. And then Whit Kern wants to know, what's the biggest mistake you made in real estate?
Oh, man. So biggest mistake I made in real estate. So I've probably got two. All right. The first one being, and I mentioned this earlier, when I started doing a lot of development, started doing a lot of fix and flip, I got away from actually wholesaling deals. So I was just cherry picking deals that I wanted to buy myself. I'm scared to know how much money I left floating out there over the years.
Just leave it alone. Don't look at it.
Right, by doing that. So that's one mistake that I would say. And I'd say my second mistake is not buying rentals soon enough, right? So I started out when I was really young. So at the time, you give me the concept of you can make $30,000 or you can make $300 a month. Well, $30,000 sounds pretty sweet, right?
Yeah.
So I was always chasing that $30,000 nugget, right? What I found is, so when I ran into cash flow issues, for example, what I realized was, oh, wait, so if I would have had a buffer of passive income or cash flow coming in, that could have mitigated, that could have paid for some employees, that could have paid for some of these different things, that could have paid for, monthly mortgage payments, things of that nature. So those are two things, man, that I'd really go back and would do differently. I have no regrets on anything that I've done, but I would have not stopped wholesaling properties off, right? Yeah. And I would have absolutely, from the get-go, focused on buying rental property. And that's why I think this subject to conversation is important, because it gives people like me, I was making $15 an hour. Yeah. So I couldn't qualify to even go buy rental property. Right. Then I was self-employed, making some money, but I'm XYZ on my tax return, so I can't go to the bank because they want to know that you can service the note. Yep. So I would absolutely 110% encourage everybody to focus on cash flow, focus on building those things into their business. And that's why I've gotten to a space where it's an active income bucket and a passive income bucket.
I think what I want to emphasize on, the part where you're saying you wish you would have just continued wholesaling, right? Yeah. And you hired a consultant on.
Right.
And they gave you that, hey, dummy, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So to add to that, because a lot of people are opposed to coaching, there's a very strong anti-guru movement, which I support most of it.
Wait, can we, if we don't mind?
Sure.
Tell me what part you support of the anti-guru movement.
I support vetting.
I agree. Can we talk about that?
Let's talk about it.
All right. So one thing that I think is really cool is, so I'm coming on your podcast, right? I think a couple people were trying to connect us together. Yeah. Hey, you got to get this guy Chris on your podcast. And so we first talked. You're like, hey, send me some HUDs, right? And so I'm like, some HUDs. I'm like, man, I've been doing this 10 years. What are you talking about, sending you some HUDs? Yeah. So then I thought about it. I'm like, no, this is the way that it should be. Right. Right? No, somebody should have to show you HUDs, to be able to come up here and have a conversation with you. Right. You've got a great platform. You're motivating people. You're inspired to help other people. You want to have people that are organic and genuine in the things that they're doing. Right. And so once I started thinking about it, qualifying to come up and have the conversation is great. That's what it should be.
Should be.
Right. We shouldn't be in this space where you can just say you're doing these things and you don't have to prove it. Right. So I love this concept of vetting. So I do think, and I agree with you, right, that we have to be in a safer space. The internet is like the Wild West, man.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I've been doing more online stuff, and this is a very interesting space to be in, because you can really be anybody you want online.
Oh, for
right?
sure. Or on the phone.
Or on the phone, right?
Yeah.
So I do think it's important to vet. I do think that people should embrace coaching. I think coaching is a great thing. The way that I learned was I learn better when I have like direct steps in front of me. I think where people mess up is that we don't realize the importance of being able to connect the dots. So proper coaching with somebody vetted gives you the ability to really kind of go and connect those dots.
Right, 100%. I think another thing I add to it when I'm talking to some people about this is, like, I might not be your coach, right? I might not be the best coach for somebody, right? Just find someone that you resonate with. Someone's like, that guy's living the kind of life I want to live.
Right.
I should copy what he's doing.
Yeah.
Not copy just anybody.
Sure. But that's why I think it's important to know what your ideal life looks like.
Exactly.
Right? Because, sometimes the guy with the cars and the crazy house and things of that nature, he's not living the life that you might want to live. If you're chasing freedom,
especially if he's driving a Lamborghini, those cars are garbage.
Teslas are better, right? I've had a large scale business, right?
Yeah.
I know what it looks like to have to constantly work 24/7 to be able to support that enterprise, right?
Yeah.
To be able to manage all those things out. Which feels a lot better these days is waking up and having some freedom and flexibility to say, hey, who can I help today? Let me go in my inbox and see who's hit me up and see who I can actually reach back out to and help. I didn't have time to do those type of things before because I was so caught up in my own space and things that I had to take care of for myself,
Yep. So Carlton Hooks is a guy in my office, someone that I've trained, and he wants to ask your opinion.
Sure.
So for us, we don't talk about price. We don't talk about conditions of the house. Only thing we care about is, does Chris have real pain? So
okay, I know where you're going.
So he wants to know what your thoughts are about the fact that we don't talk about the property at all, ever.
Yeah. So we do talk about the property. So we probably do it backwards, it sounds like, than the way that you do it. The beautiful part is...
It's not backwards, it's just different.
It's different. I like that. So the beautiful part about this business is there's a lot of different ways to make it work effectively, right?
Yep.
So what we found that's worked for us is getting some initial information about the property. Like in that phone call, we're going to get some initial information about the property, and then we're going to also use that through conversation to figure out what your pain point is.
Yeah.
And so what I mean by that is, hey, well, Steve, how did the property fall into disrepair, right? So did something come up that made you not be able to replace the roof, right? So like you may answer that question in a way that's going to let me know what your financial hurdle is. Because if you got to replace a roof and it's leaking, like you know that you need to replace the roof, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like being able to ask those questions to find out what the context clues inside of that is. So I do like asking about the property condition, not up front, but kind of close to up front.
Yeah.
And then leveraging that through the conversation.
Kind of use that.
Yeah, we use that kind of as kind of a poking stick.
A transition.
Exactly, throughout the conversation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so life is good. Life is great.
I can't complain. I'm in Arizona.
Why are you pushing still?
So that's a beautiful question, man. I live for the deal.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love talking to sellers. I love negotiating. I literally love the art of the deal.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, man. I don't think I'll ever get out of my system. I'm doing coaching these days. I'm doing a lot of different things in the internet space, things of that nature. I can't ever see myself not loving the deal, man.
Yeah.
It's in my blood, man. When I'm getting like psyched up right now thinking about it, and that's why I think I identified with Pace so much. Is like I see those same things in him. Just going out, talking to sellers, being active, actually doing the business. I love it, man. And there's just something special about riding around, going different places, and like seeing your work, right? And like you ride through a neighborhood, and I'm like, man, like it's crazy, man. Like I built that house 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I don't ever want to lose what that part feels like.
Right.
I don't know where everything is going to go in my career. I don't know the different things I'm going to do in the future. But what I do know for sure, nothing in the future is worth giving that up.
Yeah.
So I'm always going to chase the love of the business, man. It's what's got me here sitting talking to you. It's just 10 years is a grind, man. I've been through a lot of ups. I've been through a whole lot of downs, in 10 years. And I've got more downs in front of me. I've got things that are not going to go right in front of me right now.
That you don't know.
And you don't know what's around the corner, but like I'm embracing that though. I love that part of this business.
So what's your superpower?
What's my superpower? I think the determination. I think just the willingness to and the determination to just continue to move forward. You know, I said this in my intro video at We Live when I spoke at We Live. Like, man, life hits you in the mouth. Like, things are going to consistently happen in your life that's going to kind of knock you down and punch you in the mouth a little bit. But you have to be determined to walk through that. I was on a call earlier with a guy on a Facebook Live, a guy named Jesse from Houston, Texas, right? And like I said to Jesse on the phone from Houston, Texas, you got to be willing to stand tall on your stuff. And you got to be determined to take the resistance to go through that. One thing that I'm proud of, I call my superpower, is like I don't have fear, right? A guy who works for me, man, my right-hand guy, we had some crazy stuff going on a couple of years ago. Life was rough, right? Cash flow issues, different things going on. And he's like, why do you seem like you're not scared of anything? And I said, hey, man, I said, look, I just don't have any fear. I come from a family of sharecroppers, man. My family's from South Carolina, right? I come from some folks that ain't never really had much of anything. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so right now, everything in the last 10 years has been a win, right? I got arrested. I told you at the beginning of the conversation, I got arrested my senior year of high school. There's people that saw that situation happen that thought nothing positive or good was ever going to happen inside of my life, mm-hmm. right? And so the determination to walk through that and not to have any fear of the outcome around the corner. Yeah. So I no longer operate from a space of fear, well, what bad thing is going to happen to me next week? Because I know I have the determination to walk through it and get it figured out. And it's okay to have to go through stuff. Right. You know, like I'm not somebody that acts like things don't happen and you don't go through tough things in business or in your personal life. It's going to happen. It's part of the game. You just got to be willing to walk through it and get to the other side of it.
100%. So on the flip side of that is what's your biggest struggle right now? What's
my biggest struggle right now, man? You know, I want to say I got to get better at hiring. You know, that's one of my Achilles heels.
That's the last piece. I'm telling you.
It's tough, man.
It's the last piece. After you figure that out, which I don't think anyone ever has, but once you figure that out.
Oh, man. This is why it's tough. It gets easy. It's so tough. So by default, I see the good in everyone.
I've got the same problem.
And I don't know that I'm going to ever get out of that. I think that's just who I am. Mm-hmm. Like, I think I'm programmed that I literally just want to see people win. Yeah. Like, I'm so thankful for the space that I'm in and things that are occurring for me and have occurred for me. Like, I want everybody to be able to experience those things. Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to hiring, all right, we have people that come in. I'm super geeked up for them. I'm like, oh, man, this guy's going to be great, you know.
Changed my life.
I'm like, man, this is going to work out. And it doesn't work out like that, right? And so Achilles heel, something I got to get better at is I hold on to people for too long, right?
What have you done about that?
So this is what I've done recently, and with some resistance, so I'll talk about that. So I got Mark in my office, who's like my right-hand guy, runs everything. He's the man, right? So I've put him as the barrier to me, all right? Because I'm just too, I love everybody, man. I want to work with everybody, right? So like now I'm like, nah, you got to go through Mark. Like once you pass Mark's like sniff test, all right, then you can work with me. Yeah. Now here's what happens though. So somehow they get through his filter, right? And they come in, they start out pretty good. You know how it goes, right? Uh-huh. For a week later, now Mark and I are sitting around like, what are we going to do with this guy? Yeah. What are we going to do with this girl? Like, they don't get it. And so this is what I've realized. We got to train. All right? We have to spend as much time as possible training somebody. So once we know that we've gone above and beyond training somebody, if they're still not doing well, now I'm comfortable saying that's not on me. Mm-hmm. But if I know that I'm not giving the support and the training they need daily as much as I should, I can't place all the blame on them. Yeah. Right? I've got to take some responsibility inside of that. So we've been working on that. However, we keep running into this issue of I even still want to try to work these people to try to make them better. And Mark's like, hey, now we gotta let these folks go. So that's a constant struggle for me right now. But I'll get it figured out.
Yeah. Let me know when you do.
I will.
Because I rubber stamp everybody. So, like, basically, they got to get through Max, my business partner. They got to get through Summer, my right-hand person. Yeah. If you can make it past them, pretty much I'm a rubber stamp because I see the best in everybody, too.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
So, the last question we have is from Paul Rowe. Yeah. What are the top 3 things you would do if you were going to try to vet a guru or a coach?
Interesting. So, the top 3 things that I would do if I was going to vet a guru. One, I would ask them their real experience, right? I want to know what deals are they actively doing in their business right now. Like there's people out coaching wholesaling that haven't wholesaled in 10 years or 5 years, right? I want to know.
Or 0 years.
Well, there's a whole lot of that. There's a whole lot of that for sure. There's definitely a lot of that. So, I want to know if you're even wholesaling, all right? Like, are you actually actively doing deals? So that's going to be one of my first questions for somebody. My second one is probably going to be a little bit different than most people. My second one is going to be, like, what adversity have you been through? Right? I've got a concept, and Max and I have talked about this. Like, I only like working with people who have been through some stuff, because I've been through some stuff. So like, if you can't make it through any turbulence or adversity, then we're probably not a good fit for each other. Because the way my brain works is, like I said earlier, I don't have fear. When that problem or adversity comes up, like, I'm going to punch through it, right? But if I'm with you and we're in business together, and that adversity comes and you fall or you falter, Now you're pulling me back down with you, you know? So I want to know what somebody's been through. I think what people have been through, it tells you a lot about the person. I think it tells you a lot about their character.
Mental toughness is a very undervalued
110%,
trait.
man. You want to know if somebody's mentally tough. What if somebody you're getting coaching from starts running into a hard spot in their own business? Now they've made commitments to you, and because they're going through some stuff, they can't honor their commitment to you as a customer. That's not fair, right, to you. And then thirdly, man, I would look at what value am I getting from this person for the cost, right? I see these like crazy things online sometimes. Like I saw something a couple of weeks ago. Somebody was charging somebody like $2,000. I don't know if they've done a deal or not. I'm not sure. But like somebody's charging somebody $2,000, and clearly from looking at the person's Facebook page, I wasn't under the impression that they were anywhere near where they wanted to be charging somebody $2,000 for help. So part of the problem is when you want that help so bad when you're first starting in this business, and it's not where you want to go, you latch on to whoever offers it to you. And that question is really good because you should vet somebody out. You should say, hey, can I see some HUDs? Right? Hey, I want to get coaching from you. Can you show me your most recent deal? Like, do you mind just taking 15 minutes to walk me through the last deal that you did? Right? Like, what's the harm in doing that for somebody? You know? We've got into a space in this business. Again, like I said, man, you can go online and be anybody that you want. So we've gotten into this space where people want the help so bad that you don't have to prove anything to them to be able to earn their business. Anybody that comes to a workshop that I do, anybody that I do coaching with, you know, I want to make sure they see that I actually do real estate. Like, and that's why I said earlier, I'm like, not doing real estate is not even a thing for me. I'm always going to be in a space where I'm doing real estate. So you want to ask those questions, man. You want to get familiar with who you're doing business with, and you want to make sure they got the same similar goals and characteristics that you have.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. That was a great question by Paul. All right, so I'm going to let you think about what you want to leave the listeners with.
Sure.
All right, so I'm going to make one quick announcement, or a couple. So guys, we're a month and a half away from our event. Max and I, we're going to be talking about what works in our business, 2.5 days in Phoenix, April 17th and 19th. We're going to talk about what's working in 2020, now what's working in 2013. The feedback we got is people love the transparency, level of detail that we dive into each topic. I'm a nerd, student of the game, so when I go into a topic, I go really deep. The feedback we also got was we gave up too much information, which I proudly wear as a badge of honor.
That's a good thing.
If you want to double your business, go to disruptors.com, see if the workshop makes sense for you. And we're taking next week off for spring break. We'll be back in 2 weeks with Mr. Casey Ryan from Las Vegas. He's going to talk about how he's running, from what I've heard, one of the most profitable wholesale business, that he's got profit and volume. It's hard to do both well. So he's going to talk about that. So, last thoughts.
So, last thoughts, man. I just want to be a vehicle of encouragement. Anybody listening to this podcast, watching this on Facebook Live or YouTube, stay consistent. Work as hard as you can. Again, it took me 2 years. Whatever space you're in right now, whatever things aren't going the way that you want them to go, I can assure you, if you stay consistent and work hard, you are by far going to get to the other side of that. Just stay committed if this is what you really say that you want. Talk to sellers on a daily basis. That's got to be your priority every day when you wake up. How can I get on the phone or get in front of a seller today? That's got to be critical. Don't overthink this. It's okay not to know things in this business. It's okay to be in a space where you don't know how you're going to find your cash buyer. You don't know these different things. There's nothing wrong with that. Build a network and a source of people in your ecosystem around you that you can lean on. I've got a Facebook group, Wholesaling VA Supercharged, that you can check out. You've got one, Real Estate Disruptors Facebook group. You've got a high level people in your group. I'm in your group.
Yep.
There's people that can help you, get you the information, answers you need. It's okay to not know everything. I don't know everything. You probably don't, right?
No.
But you take steps actionably every day to do better. I'm always available, man. Check me out on Instagram. It's the easiest place to get me. Shoot me a message, the Chris Jefferson on Instagram, THE Chris Jefferson, and shoot me a DM, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And